Hello and welcome back to the MGS COVIDCast. I'm your host, Evan. Unfortunately, Freddie couldn't make it today. But with us today, we have Alex and Arya from Team Tachyon Racing, who made it to our Nationals in the F1 in Schools competition last year. How's it going, guys?
Yeah, pretty good, thanks.
Yeah, good, thanks. How are you?
So, yeah, good, thanks. I guess we'll start, with the usual COVID cast initiation thing, which is the lockdown morning routine, if you guys are familiar with the show.
Yep.
So, what do you do before you hop on WebEx for the day?
Do you want to go
and stuff,
first, Arya?
boys?
I reckon you started off.
Yeah, sure. So basically, the first thing I do when I wake up is I breathe. I have some, have some water. Then I'll just do some meditation for about 10 minutes. Then just the usual, just toilet, shower, brush, breakfast. Then ready for online class by about 8:15. Just get the laptop ready, all the books out, and by 8:30 in tutor group and house period. It's just pretty stock standard.
Yeah, pretty normal. What about you, Alex?
8:25, my alarm goes off, and I struggle to get out of bed, and then I'm punctual to house or tutor period or chapel, whatever it is in the morning. But usually the routine is I wake up pretty late, I enjoy my sleep, and I'll sort of just throw myself onto the computer and be ready for the day. And then normally they give us about 10 minutes. Normally it's about 10 minutes, right, between house or tutor and 9 o'clock, which is class start.
Yeah.
And that's when I get ready for the day. So that's my morning routine.
I mean, I feel like a lot of people do the same thing as you, Alex.
Yeah, I heard that quite a few people. It's quite a similar routine. I feel like it's very, very polarized. It's either everyone gets up in the morning and they're quite productive and they get ready, or it's my routine and sort of struggling a little bit. But
Yeah, well, so far we've only had a couple people on here that do the opposite. But is what it is. I noticed that you, Alex, you've got your Tachyon shirt on, and Harry, you've got the hat repping the merch.
I've
got to represent.
If you want me to give a quick explanation of I'll give a quick explanation of why we're even on here. So in 2019, we participated in the F1 in Schools competition, which is essentially just a STEM competition incorporating many themes and elements from Formula One. So it's not exactly the same, but it's quite a good little microcosm for what F1 is really like. And Evan's also wearing his shirt from the year he did it before us, so proud of us. And I guess our story is that Arya and I and 3 other boys, Ollie Chen, Roddy Dong, and Ethan Ng, we formed a team. You said, why not? Let's do our best. Let's see what we can do. Year 9, we don't have too much work to do, so this keeps us entertained, gives us a good sense of purpose. So that's what we did. We started on a pretty big project, which I think was a massive learning experience for us all.
Massive.
Yeah, I mean, I know when I did it.
Not even just actual
lovely.
F1, but just actual normal skills outside of F1. You learn so much so quickly.
Yeah. So what roles did you guys act in the team? Because I know there are a lot of different things to do to sort of get this up and running. So what did you guys do for your teams?
You want to go first, Sarah? His internet will allow.
Yeah, sure. So I was design engineer. So yeah. Sorry, am I lagging a bit? Okay, I think I am. Okay, so anyways, So basically, I was design engineer. So it's pretty self-explanatory. You just design the car using CAD software, and then use whatever you want. I use Flow Design to analyze how it runs in a straight line. Basically, that's pretty much the extent of my job. That's pretty much it. Then there was Ethan, who was manufacturing engineer. Pretty much just once the car was milled, he was the one who sanded it, treated it, painted it, put it together basically. So he's the reason why it's actually on the track. Then we had Roddy, who was, I think, marketing, so basically helping us get sponsors, writing portfolios and stuff. Then Ollie Chen was, I think, graphics designer it was called, so basically making everything look nice, I think. Yep. So making everything look nice, getting the portfolios looking, sminko. And then YZ was team captain, so monitoring all of us and making sure we're doing the right thing. I think I covered everything. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think you do cover everything pretty well. So I was team captain, so I pretty much did just a little bit of everything. Made some pretty tough calls, but I think just generally just helping where I could. It's not very designing or building. There isn't something I can do all the time. So it's more just organizing meetings, getting everyone together, organizing different things and talking to like our main sponsors and how we can help them. So like Roddy would help acquire the sponsors, but like we would both have to go in and pretty much convince them to give us sponsorship money because it's quite a self-driven F1 in schools program. So you need to go to other people to get the sponsorships. The school will back you in a little bit, but obviously we have the milling machines and the DT department's very good with that. They'll help you design the car. But on the scale of like production costs and things like that, that was very orientated towards, it was very proactive. So we would have to do things like that. So that's sort of my biggest role.
Yeah. So lots to do. What sort of sponsors did you guys manage to, nab to back you guys in?
Our biggest sponsor was Ryobi. That was a pretty big one. We managed to score them. So they were, they have close links with Bunnings as well. So essentially it was a Bunnings Ryobi partnership. And so we got a lot of tools and we got a lot of building supplies for free. And essentially all the power tools came from them, which was really a really big help. So obviously the DT department has some, but all the unique ones, they gave us all for free. And they gave us spending money for other materials as well. So that was good. That was probably our biggest one.
Oh, what sort of tools did you guys get? Because I know, at least for our team, we used everything that was in the DT department, but we didn't really use more. So what did you guys get from Ryobi and Bunnings?
More like on the production side, like when we were building and setting up our booth, so that's something we'll talk about later. We used power tools and things like that they gave us, and they were like right angled power tools, so you could get into really close angles assembling the booth. So that's sort of what we used, and other things like sanding machines and stuff like that they helped us with as well. So that was pretty good.
That'd be pretty handy. I guess we'll get to the main important. But I guess what the main draw is for F1 in schools, even though there's a lot more that goes into it. Your times and your races. So I know you guys made it through states, internationals. What were your sort of times that you got at state?
At state level, we'll have to pull up the records because I'm not sure if I remember off by heart.
I think I remember. I think for state, our fastest
do you remember
time
the
was
exact figure?
Yeah, I think the exact figure for state, our fastest time was a 1 second 2:74, and that was I think second fastest in the state overall.
Mm-hmm.
Then I think that was the fastest time. I think we got around about 1.3 or 1.2. I think that was about the average across all races, so that was pretty good. And then for nationals, it was much slower.
It was roughly a little bit the same, but we had a couple penalties that we took on, so it kind of added to our time, which is a bit of a shame.
Yeah.
But I think to give a bit of context to people watching and listening, the main crux of Formula One in schools, I think we've got to explain it a little bit, is that although it's like Formula One, there's mainly two areas of what you do in Formula One in schools. So the first area is the car, and that's what Arya was concerned with, and Ethan, like production, designing, engineering, making it as fast as you can. So in essence, it's about a car about this big, and you make two of them and they're identical or near as identical as you can. And they're filled with carbon dioxide canisters and they're fired down a straight 20 or 50 meter. It was 20 meter track. And it was just whoever could get the fastest time
20 meter track.
Pretty much won the event, won the race. 20 meter track. And so that was one half, and it was marked out of 900. So it was a little bit less than half. It was marked out of 300. And then the other 600 marks were to do with production, marketing, and design. So we would have to design a booth for the judges to judge us. We'd have to they'd have to scrutiny in multiple things. We'd have to give them speeches. We'd have to explain to them how we got our sponsors. So that's the car there. So it was a very multifaceted sort of experience. So that's sort of the context, a little bit more context of what we were doing and what we're talking about here. So, yep.
And just to put into scope how amazing this sort of thing is, a car 20 meters, say, going 20 meters in, say, around a second, that's, up near 70 k's an hour and sort of accelerating it over 7 Gs. So it's really quite impressive what you guys sort of, can manage to build out there. And, kudos to you for doing a lot better than we did.
Thank you.
But what would you guys say was the most difficult part of the progress? Because there's just so much that has to go into it.
You want to go first, Arya?
Yeah. Okay. How much time do you have? Basically, organization. That was probably the toughest thing. Bit of context. So about a week before the actual race, I'm pretty sure it was about a week, we didn't have a car, didn't have a booth, didn't have any portfolios, pretty much had nothing for the actual race. And then I think the day after that, so 6 days before the race, our milling machine breaks down, so it doesn't stop sprinting. So, and we didn't account for that at all. So we didn't account for failure. So that was probably the hardest thing, not having anything ready. And then luckily we had Miss Garnham contacted, I forgot his name now, but the person from Trinity who mills their cars, and he was able to mill the cars for us. So we're very thankful to him. And then pretty much on the day of the event, we got the cars painted, the portfolios printed out, the booth printed out. Pretty much everything was done on the day.
Yeah.
So I think organization and just getting everything together on the day was the hardest thing to do.
Yeah, it's a bit of an inspiring story, the one of our state success, because there were MGS sent two teams to Team Quasar and Team Tachyon, or Tachyon Racing, that's what we were called, and they sent two of us into states, and it's a bit of an underdog story because, like Arya said, we were a little bit underprepared going into it. Like, we left it quite to the last minute. We were trying to get as much design and processing in, and obviously, like Arya said, you don't account for your machine breaking a week before the finals. And obviously we're trying to proofread all the documents and things like that, getting it ready. So we left everything quite late, but everything seemed to go perfect as soon as we put everything into plan. It was like we didn't have a booth. We had a booth designed, obviously, and it was getting productive, but obviously there were more issues there as well. So we got our booth completely ready to go the night before the competition. We got our cars ready the morning of, because obviously it was quite time restricted because we tried getting as much production in. We got the cars ready the night before the morning of. We got all our production and portfolios done in the morning. So everything was ready to go. And obviously we had to keep our heads up high because it wasn't an easy task. But in the end, we managed to pull through and come third in states, which is a pretty big achievement for some of the other schools that were doing it pretty hardcore as well. Like Trinity, we keep mentioning Trinity, their program is sort of really driven and focused, and they've been doing it for years. But we sort of came into it as the underdogs, and we sort of got through it as a team. Yep.
Yeah, I think just to put into context, Trinity has
cool.
won. It's a world. Oh,
It's a little bit delayed.
Okay. Yeah, okay. So sorry to interrupt. Basically, the story about Trinity, they've won. It's a global competition. So Trinity has won the World Championships for Australia numerous times. So they are the team to beat, essentially, in Australia and pretty much in the world as well. If you beat Australia, if you beat Trinity Grammar, you've beaten the best school in the world for this sort of competition. So to sort of go head to head with them and have the second quickest car with someone who's won World Championships before, it's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's a really impressive feat because I know Trinity has some wacky designs that, managed to work. So I guess that moves on to the next thing I want to ask you, Arya, is what sort of was your inspiration for the car design that you ended up with at the end? What was this whole, design process behind it?
Yeah, so basically, when I started, I didn't know anything about CAD. The only thing I knew was how to use SketchUp, which isn't a great tool. So basically, the first car that I actually designed was copying off someone on YouTube who just said, "Okay, do this, do this, do this," and that's sort of how I learned. Then going through the regulations, I found out that was wrong, so I had to start from scratch again. But I already knew sort of what things to do. So now I looked at the previous World Championship winning cars and sort of thought, okay, what's the best part about this? How does that design sort of work? Then sort of looking at the front, the middle, and the back, so that the front wing, then the middle, the side pods, and then the back wing and the rear pods, and sort of looking at that, and then from there, trying to also match some concept F1 designs, I think. So I think there were some images online, and I sort of started analyzing how they would work, sort of in my head, and then try to integrate that into one car, which ended up working quite well, actually. We got to a point where the car was, I think the drag coefficient was about 0.27, which is decent because the idea for this, it's a straight race, so you don't want to have too much drag. So yeah, we got about 0.27, and for nationals, we got it to about 0.16. So the drag coefficient was quite low, but penalties for that, but that's a different story. So basically after that, we just started refining it, then checking the rules and adding margins for it. And then, from there, that's pretty much how the car came to be.
Yeah, cool. I can't say ours was that sort of streamlined, but, you guys got to nationals, which I guess we can move on to talking about that. what was the sort of experience, going up a level, a little bit of a bigger stage, tougher competition? What would it feel like going up against that?
Yeah, I'll take this one. It was
Yeah, you
intense.
said this.
You could feel it. You could feel the atmosphere was a completely different. Yeah, you could feel the atmosphere was a completely different. It's just a different beast. That's how I describe it. You knew everyone there that got there. Obviously, we were the same. They wanted to win, and they would stop at nothing for it. It was a week-long competition, so we were there for. And this is right on the cusp of COVID, so we didn't even know if it was going to happen. But it was a week-long event, and you just knew everyone there was going to leave it all on the table. I think, and that's sort of the step up that you experience. Oh, Byra. But but I think what we learnt the most was that throughout the entire event, persistence was the most important thing out of anything, because there were so many times where it was so easy to be like, we throw in the towel, we're not going to make it. And I think that was the most important thing that I learned, at least from F1 in schools, was that no matter what, you push through it, and especially for nationals, because it's about triple the amount of work of states. So it was obviously a great experience, and I won't forget it. But yeah, it was a massive step up.
Yeah, where was nationals held?
It was here, so it was at the Bosch Centre down in Clayton. So
that
was
lucky.
Lucky.
That's where we had our states.
It was lucky. It was lucky for us. We didn't have to go down to go up or around Australia, because again, that probably adds to the cost. But it was pretty good. We had a home ground advantage, which was pretty good.
That's good. What sort of changed, at least competition wise? Welcome back. I know the other teams were a lot more competitive, but
thank you.
Did things like regulations for the cars and what you had to do for presentations and whatever, did that stuff change for nationals, or was it sort of more of the same?
It was quite a more of the same. I think it was just a matter of the fact of the quality had to be higher. And obviously we'd done it before for states, so we knew what we were doing. So we knew exactly, it was pretty much do it again, but better. I think that was the motto that I was saying for nationals.
Were you guys a little more prepared coming into nationals, not leaving stuff to the last minute like you were for states?
A bit. Yeah, sorry. Go.
Yeah, sorry. So yeah, we were much more prepared. Can you guys hear me still?
Yep.
Yeah.
Hello? Yeah, okay, yeah. So we were much more prepared. We actually got the cars printed out much earlier. We got the cars painted a lot earlier. Everything was pretty much done and ready to go. So there's a couple of new things with nationals. We had to do a bit more presentation work, so we had to work on that. So we had a couple of days just to work purely on just presentations and stuff. But yeah, other than that, it was pretty much nonetheless the same. Just the standard was so much higher. Like, it's incredible how much of a difference there was.
So what other schools sort of came from interstate to obviously go against you guys in Trinity and whoever else qualified from Vic?
Do you want to take this, Arya?
Yeah. Sorry, what was the question? It was just what other schools were there?
Yeah. So who was coming from interstate and stuff?
Yeah, I can't exactly remember. I don't know exactly remember the exact names of the schools, but I think there was about 3 teams per state per division that were coming in. So there's different divisions. You have the cadet class, which is like pretty much just like juniors. Then you have the development class, which is what we competed in, and there's different regulations for each. And then you have the professional class, which they have their own set of regulations and stuff. So about 3 teams from each state from each division. So there were 3 from the division or development class from Vic, New South Wales, Western Australia, Southern Australia, and I think Queensland, there was one team as well. And then again, there was another one for professional class. So yeah, it was a lot of people from like across Australia just coming in and competing for 7 days.
It's pretty insane. And how did you guys end up going in nationals?
Well, we struggled a bit, to be honest. We won't even lie. Yeah. I think we were quite near the bottom, because I think although our presentations were pretty good and we did pretty well in them, actually, we ranked quite like mid to high. Our car was hit with quite a few penalties that we didn't see coming. So obviously the car matters a lot. It's an F1 contest. So we got hit with penalties. The most frustrating thing was Arya designed a car that was actually pretty good. It was pretty near the top of the pack. It was probably 4th or 5th fastest. It wasn't outright fast, but it was probably 4th or 5th fastest. But it lost about 0.4 seconds due to time penalties, which on a national scale where the times are only 2 seconds, that'll just throw you to the bottom of the field. So it hurt a bit, but obviously we didn't go that great, but I think it was the experience that mattered more. Obviously we say that now, but I think it was a really good experience. And we just, to be honest, even though we said the standard of quality was higher, it was we didn't even know how much higher it was. Like the
Yeah,
ceiling was.
it was crazy. Like the amount of effort that these teams, like everyone put a lot of effort, but the top teams that actually went through the amount of effort and time that they actually spent into these things is pretty much what they did pretty much other than school. So they'll do school and the F1 in the schools. It was crazy. They had no other, like, they were doing anything else. They spent so much time, and you could definitely tell, like, even by their booths, their cars, how they looked, how they presented themselves. It was so very, very clear that they spent a lot of time.
Yeah, I guess. Well, I guess we'll move on to sort of final things. For future U9s, they may not be listening to this, but do you have any tips for anyone else who wants to sort of throw the hat in the ring for F1 in schools, other than sort of throw more time at it? I guess.
I would say the hardest thing is starting. Do it. I think it's one of the most like enjoyable experiences I've had in senior school. I think that the fact that you get to work as a team, and I learnt so much. Obviously, I'm a bit of an F1 nerd, but I learnt so much about teamwork and leadership through F1 in schools that I don't think you could get in many other places throughout the senior school. So even if you have just a slight hint of like interest in STEM, I think that if you have a group of mates that are like-minded, just go for it. Miss Garnham's very good with it, and she'll teach you everything you need to know. And obviously, due to COVID, we haven't really had it for the past couple of years. But the year nines moving up through the school, you'll always have people to give you advice, and you can always ask me, even if most likely next year, that it's just such a good experience to do. So I say do it. That's my biggest piece of advice.
Yeah,
Anything
sort
you
of just
wanna add,
following
Arya?
on. Yeah, just following on from that. Other than just definitely do it, I would definitely say have good team communication. Always be communicating, because that was probably one thing that we lacked as well. Organization and communication. We probably should have improved that for states, and we definitely did that for nationals. What else would I say? I think the biggest advice that I would give is don't get too disheartened with the result, regardless what happens. I definitely remember after nationals, I was pretty distraught for a couple of days, purely because it didn't go the way we wanted. Which, I mean, was fair enough. We spent a lot of time doing it. So, I mean, don't get too disheartened. You've got to remember that some of the teams, they've won the world competition several times. So, like, I think even Wesley's won it, I think, once or twice, and they're competing as well. Trinity's won it, I think, pretty much every other time for Australia. So, you're up against pretty much the best in the world for this sort of competition. So, to even be at that level is incredible. It's an amazing effort, and to go even further, it's the level. I don't think people understand just how high the level is until they actually go there and see how fast those cars are going. So, but yeah, definitely enjoy yourself, but don't get too disheartened if it doesn't go the way you want.
I mean, it was amazing you guys made it to nationals anyway. That's pretty huge that you were sort of the top in the state and could make it to a national level. So again, kudos to you guys. And I guess on that, thanks so much for coming on and talking a bit about your F1 in schools adventure. I know it's a very interesting and unique program that Wollongong offers, and it's one that I personally think is really good. So again, thanks so much, guys, for coming on and having a little bit of a chat about it. Is there anything else you'd like to add before we go?
Keep doing STEM.
Yeah, just them. Yeah. Yeah.
But no, thank you so much for bringing us on.
Thanks for inviting us.
All right. Well, on that, thanks for listening to the MGS COVIDCast. We'll see you again on Thursday with another episode. See you, everyone.
So, yeah.